Alarm. You silence it. Snooze. It comes back. Coffee. Traffic. Inbox already full before you've sat down. A meeting that could have been an email. Lunch at your desk, if you eat at all. More emails. Traffic home. Dinner, half watched. Phone. Scroll. Sleep. Not enough of it. Tomorrow, same thing. If that felt uncomfortably familiar, it should. And here's the strange part. For almost the entire span of human existence, none of this was normal. Modern humans spend tens of thousands of hours of their lives working, handed over to a job. But jobs, wages, bosses, schedules are recent. Our species has existed for roughly 300,000 years. For most of that time, there was no employment at all. So what were people doing with all that time? In the 1960s, anthropologist Richard Lee studied the hoansi people of the Kalahari, one of the last groups whose way of life resembles how humans lived before farming. He tracked their days. Adults spent around 2.5 days a week getting food. Later researchers found something similar among the Hadza in Tanzania and other foraging groups elsewhere. Not identical numbers, not proof of some universal ancient rule, but a pattern, repeating across continents. Far less time spent on survival than a modern workweek demands. Which raises an obvious question. If survival didn't consume the whole day, what filled the rest of it? Skeletons offer a clue. When archaeologists compare early farmers to the hunter-gatherers before them, the farmers are often shorter, with worse teeth, more joint damage. Foraging life wasn't easy or safe, but it wasn't necessarily more laborious than what came after. And then there's evidence that shouldn't exist if every hour was a fight to stay alive. Art. Inside Chauvet Cave in France, paintings over 30,000 years old show horses and lions with shading, depth, motion. Not scribbles, but practiced work, done deep underground by firelight. In South Africa, at Blombos Cave, archaeologists found shell beads more than 70,000 years old, deliberately pierced, likely strung as jewelry, made from shells carried from a coastline kilometers away. In Germany, a flute carved from bone, tens of thousands of years old, its fingerholes spaced for actual notes. None of it fed anyone, none of it kept anyone warm. They made art. Not after their work was done. As part of being alive. Try to picture a day, not a reenactment, a plausible sketch, built from what the evidence allows. You wake near a fire that never fully died. No alarm, no commute. You eat something gathered yesterday. Maybe a group heads out to track an animal, on foot, for hours, wearing it down rather than outrunning it. Maybe nobody goes today, because there's still food left, and instead you sharpen a tool, scrape a hide. Watch the children, talk, do nothing in particular. By afternoon, the productive part of the day is often already over. And what fills the rest is people, talking, laughing, grooming each other, telling jokes. Anthropologists studying groups like the hoansi describe several hours a day spent simply being social, because in a world with no money and no contracts, your relationships were your safety net. If people didn't like you, they didn't have to feed you when you were hungry. We have more ways to reach each other than any humans in history. Messages, calls, feeds, notifications. And somehow, many of us barely have an uninterrupted hour with the people sitting in the same room. At night, something shifts. Researchers who recorded conversations among groups like the hoansi noticed that daytime talk was practical. Who saw tracks, where the plants were. But after dark, most conversation turned to stories, myths, jokes, ancestors. The evidence here is more interpretive than certain, but some researchers have argued this is where culture itself may have taken shape, around a fire, with a full stomach, safe enough to imagine. Rest wasn't a reward. Then humanity changed the rules. Agriculture, roughly 10,000 years ago, and it set off a loop that fed itself. More reliable food meant more people needed more food. More food meant more labor, planting, weeding, defending stored grain from animals and other people. Once populations grew, there was increasingly no going back. This wasn't a mistake. It built cities, medicine, writing, everything we call civilization. But it also rebuilt how humans spent their hours, until larger societies needed specialists, then administrators, then something close to what we'd call a job. Alarm. You silence it. Snooze. It comes back. The same sound that opened this video. The result of 10,000 years of trade-offs nobody alive today actually agreed to. Maybe your exhaustion isn't a personal failure to manage your time better. Maybe it's older than that. For most of human existence, rest, conversation, and making something just to make it weren't things you earned after the real work was finished. They were the point.